everyone. Welcome back. Firstly, I'm very sorry I have a cold, so I sound quite horrible. But today we're going to talk about a topic which, like, to me, is kind of what makes an eating disorder, but is quite often not seen to the outside world. I think, like, when people think about eating disorders, they just think like you just don't like food, you just don't like to eat, you're not hungry. Whereas certainly in my eating disorder, it was the opposite. Like, I loved food. I obsessively loved food. I loved to eat. My mental hunger was off the charts. But the thing that made food a problem for me or problematic in my life was the rules I had around it and the conditions and the sense of having to justify eating to make it feel okay. Like, it's almost felt like my brain was like frantically trying to make food safe. Like, as long as it cost the right thing or tasted great or somebody saw or it was perfect conditions whilst you were eating or you deserved it, something like that, you'd eaten the right amount around it to make it all okay. There were so many boxes to tick that to me is what made my eating disordered. But I don't think that's always kind of seen to the outside world or to people who don't have eating disorders. Yet, personally, for me, like, that is what made my experience with food and with an eating disorder crippling. And that's what really interfered with my life. So that's the topic we are going to talk about today. And I guess how we overcame some of it, like how we broke some of those rules and conditions and got to a point where we didn't have that attached to food. Like, food is just food now, I think, Saf, for both of us, right? And there aren't conditions attached. We don't have to justify it. We eat because we eat. Like, we're allowed it because we're allowed it, not because of X, Y, Z.
Mm.
So yeah, we can walk through some of those X, Y, Zs, what they look like, and maybe how we overcame some of them.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for that, Meg. Yeah, absolutely. It's so the invisible part of an eating disorder, and it's actually what makes it an eating disorder. You're right. It's not about what your body looks like or what people see from the outside. It's all about your internal experience of having an eating disorder and how it impacts your life is all of these little invisible things. And we're just going to go through some of them now. So I'll just start running through some that definitely clients that I have worked with have told me they experienced. And it's just so that if you're listening, you can start to identify like, oh yeah, no, I do know what they're talking about. Because sometimes you think it's so part of your normal experience, your normal day to day, the normal thoughts that run through your day that you almost are like not even aware of the fact that they are disordered. You're like, this is just norm, this is just life. So we're just going to run through some of them now. I'm going to start with some of the movement related ones because yes, I definitely hear this a lot from people who have got an issue with movement. Like, it's okay to rest today because I know I'll have a chance to exercise tomorrow. It's okay to eat more dinner than my partner because he hasn't exercised today and I have. It's okay not to exercise today because no one else in my family has exercised. So if somebody else exercised, like Brent used to say Brent used to go to football or something. Oh, well, he's done that, so that means that I can't eat. But if he hasn't gone to football, that's okay. Then I can eat, kind of thing. It's okay to rest because my partner will be worried or annoyed if I exercise, or it's okay to eat this if you can exercise later. And I think this is like such a tricky area with movement, especially this idea of people being like annoyed if you do exercise or if you're in recovery, so people think that you shouldn't. Like, it almost like legitimizes the fact that you can rest. The problem with that is that when you do actually want to rest because that's just your preference, you'll feel like you need somebody else to validate that. And you don't, we want to get to a point where you can literally just tap into your own body and think, right, no, I want to rest today. I'm not in the mood. Like, I just feel like that is what my body wants me to do. I know movement wasn't really a thing for you so much in your eating disorder, Meg. So, but is this something that you've heard from clients that you've worked with who have got issues with movement?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And I can see it makes sense to me. Like, I can see it as like food almost becomes part of a formula. Like, there are so many elements to food, even like the cost of it, the taste of it, the freshness of it, the using it up and being efficient with food. So I can see how movement can play into it as like an element of the formula. It just didn't for me. And also, I guess if you're listening and it doesn't for you as well, like, no shame on that. And
No,
like, I was speaking to a client this week actually about like eating disorders are hard enough to recover from. Like, you don't need to ever add another element to it. You know, like, I used to think that. I
absolutely.
used to think like, thank God there were some things that didn't, like, even orthorexia, I didn't really experience that. But if I ever got a thought to, I would just be like, no, do you know what? This is hard enough. I've got enough things to overcome. I don't need to add anything else to my
Thank
plate.
God you thought that. And
Yeah.
it's right. Like there are so many elements, and there's definitely already, there's elements of your eating disorder that I remember not experiencing myself in terms of like, you've been really open and honest about maybe like some of like the ways that you ate. And that was such a challenging thing for you to overcome. But I don't think I really had that in the same way. And you're right. Like we all have those different, like there's so many commonalities with eating disorders, but then there's also so many like little differences.
Unique as well. It's interesting that, isn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah. So often we see these thoughts also come up around like occasions. Like it's okay to eat this cake because I'm not often in this cafe, so I won't be able to eat it again. Or I can eat this cake because it's somebody's birthday. And like that's definitely something that I hear a lot. It's like such an obvious way to be value aligned, because we talk about being value aligned as a way to recover, like be in touch with your values. So, okay, if it's their birthday, then if I don't eat that cake, it's really obvious that I'm not being value aligned. I'm not being that person that joins in. But what about when you want to just go and pick up a cake and you're by yourself and you just feel like it? Like it's about then being able to give yourself permission, because it's not, nobody is around you, you're just by yourself, there's no specific occasion. But that's definitely one that I see come up a lot. Have you seen that
Mm.
one, Meg?
Yeah, and even as you're saying, I just think it's so mentally exhausting, this stuff, because if you're looking for justifications to eat, then every time you have to like run through things in your brain to be like, what's this about it? What's this about it? But what did I do earlier? What am I doing later? What's that other person doing? What happened yesterday? What am I doing? What did I weigh? Like when you have that many conditions attached to food, your brain, like the formula around food that you have to run through, it's like every eating experience is like a mathematical equation versus like the freedom of just being able to like, I fancy stopping for a cake. I'm going to go and sit in a cafe, have a latte and a cake and read my book. Done.
Yes.
You know, and I just enjoy my book and focus on the book and don't think about the food. I enjoy it and move on. But as soon as you've got conditions attached, everything is such a like mental stress to have to run through. Like, does it fit my criteria? And then also the stress that if it doesn't, like if one of those elements of the equation is out of whack, it feels so, so stressful.
Exactly. Like it's like, what if okay, you only eat cake when it's somebody's birthday, but then what if when you have that cake, it's actually not that great? And so that's like a part of the formula that's like messes up. Or what if somebody else has a smaller slice than you, or they decide not to have one? Or like, it's like,
Mm.
it always puts it on the pedestal compared to, right, I'm in my own lane, I'm in my glass dome, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. And you stick to that, because when you start adding any elements of the formula, they do stack up. It's,
Mm.
it's really, you don't just sort of have one element like, oh, I'm only allowed to do it if it tastes good. No, it's like all of them seem to accumulate.
Yeah, definitely. And I love that, like you're in your own lane. I think that's so much a part of the formula, because as soon as you start looking outside, like what's that person doing? Or like almost waiting for permission based on what other people do. Like, I don't know, if you stop for lunch and you really want to like order chips for the table, but then you're like, I have to wait until someone suggests it so that we're allowed to do it. Or you want to get a dessert, you have to like wait until somebody else suggests a dessert. Or if you want to order something, you watch what other people are ordering, or you want to finish everything, you look to see if everybody else is finishing it. Like it's just so I think we've spoken about it a couple of times recently, but that like shining the light within, like it's okay that you've got your own wants and desires and needs, and that's justification enough. It doesn't need to be matched by somebody else. It doesn't need to come from somebody else first. It doesn't need to be less than somebody else, like you were saying about like it depends what my partner's done for what I'm allowed to do, kind of thing. Like, no, you can be the person that suggests it, that has more, that wants more, that even like I was speaking to a client about like tastes for things and like, oh, well, why do other people only like this version of something, whereas I feel like I like the higher calorie version of something? Fine, be the person that likes the higher calorie version of something. Like, fine, you do you. Like, there's no like value attached to it or like judgment. It just is. You've got your own tastes, you've had your own history, like you've been through restriction, starvation, weight suppression, whatever it is that's made up your eating disorder. Like you are going to have a different relationship to food to other people, and that's okay. And you can kind of like honor your own, this is me and this is where I am.
Absolutely. And don't you think from like having kids, you can see even from a young age that they all have their own like preferences and unique
That's
qualities
true.
and things that they like? It's like we're all born with that. Like there's people as adults who are like, they just generally don't like eating dessert. And I'm like, I don't get that. because I
Yeah.
love dessert. But like, there's nothing disordered about that. That is like a genuine preference thing for them. And you're right, it is about realizing like we all are all different, and you can like,
Yeah.
yeah, the higher calorie part of it or the full fat version of something. There's a reason why it does exist on the counter. You're definitely not alone. There's a load of other people that also are like that. But yeah, just accepting like that is your own preference.
So true.
And you know, when you were talking as well, maybe you were like, compared to like just going get in the cafe and the latte and just sitting there enjoying, compared to all of those thoughts, like I physically felt anxious when you were saying all those thoughts, because it's like it's so stressful, isn't it? Like
Mm.
it's not a case of like, oh, it's stopping you. It's also like literally creating like a physical anxious reaction in your
Yeah.
body. And I do find that
Yeah.
people with eating disorders, like, and when I actually experienced that myself, I felt like I was always on the edge, like,
Mm.
because it's just like so stressful having these thoughts constantly running through your mind. Like, it's like a physical somatic experience compared to
Yeah.
like, then when you said like, go get the latte and the cake and sit down and enjoy it, I was like, oh, that just sounds
Oh,
so
let's
peaceful,
breathe.
relaxing, and breathing. Yeah, exactly. So it's all about like also having a much calmer, happier life where you're able to think about other things. Like,
Yeah. So true. Because with the formula, it's like you're scrambling around to try and meet all the conditions of it. And like you try and keep life super controlled so that you know every condition is met and then you feel safe. But it's not an enduring feeling of like safety or okayness, like that controlled state of okay. It's like a blank slate every single day. And then you have to go at it again and tick the boxes again. And like you said, you're always like a bit on edge, like you're always with the risk that like, but what if something goes wrong? What if somebody suggests eating at a different time? What if I have an appointment over my lunch? What if my food is stale and I didn't expect it to be? What if, I don't know, the brand I want isn't in the shop? There's so many things that can go wrong. And I feel like in trying to control them, you reduce life to become so small and controlled and rigid. I certainly did. And
absolutely.
it's like, I need this to feel safe in the moment. But actually, if you step back and look at it, like, is it compatible with your life? Like, is it actually giving you a like long-term sense of I feel okay, or I'm living in line with my values, or whatever? Like in my experience, ticking those boxes to feel okay in the moment was at the total cost of my life. And
Ab-
like spontaneity and fun and my personality and relationships and stuff like that. I kind of had to sacrifice all of those to keep ticking those boxes of like, but if I do this, this, and this, I feel okay.
Exactly, exactly. And what I notice that most people who are in active recovery, they're aware of it and they really don't like it, but they just struggle to get out of it. And it's because you just realize it's so at odds with the way that you want to live or what you would ever want from somebody else. We'll go through some more of the ones that like people have said in relation to food as well, in case maybe this is something that you notice in your own experience with an eating disorder if you're listening. So some people say it's okay to eat this food because it's going off tomorrow, and it would go to waste otherwise. So there's that feeling of like, yeah, that worrying
Yeah.
around money and that kind of
Yeah,
thing.
I made some notes as well, and I've got exactly the same thing. I said using things up and that feeling of efficiency around food. Like
Mm.
it's okay if I've been maximally efficient and productive in my use of food.
Yes, exactly. So like there's another kind of like factor in the formula because at least, yeah, it's been used in that way. Or it's okay. This is such a big one, I find. It's almost like its own like podcast episode, but like it's okay to have this much or this particular food because I need to gain weight. Like because gosh, this is going to be such an issue for you when you do reach that weight that you're setting as your target, because then you've got this idea that there are recovery foods. And like that is something that we've both massively championed, is the fact that there are no such thing as recovery foods and
Mhm.
nothing needs to come out of your diet when you recover. So that is such a big one. I don't know if you see
Yeah,
that
I
come up
wrote
a
that
lot,
one down
Meg.
as well. I
Yeah.
wrote that down as well. I said that weight can act as like a buffer for things to be allowed, or I guess like what else you've eaten in the week or what you weigh in the week can feel like that buffer of like, well, this is okay because
Mm.
again, it's like I feel like your brain is like desperately looking for a reason that this is okay. Like
It
I
is.
can do this because of this. I can do, and then if it can't find it there, it will look for a reason somewhere else. Like, well, maybe it costs the right thing, or maybe I'm using something up. Maybe I've got to wait. Like I feel like your brain's like scrambling, like, but why is this okay?
Yeah.
Versus just is okay. Like it's not a recovery food, it's an always food. It just is an okay thing to have.
Yeah, it's almost like that one thing that we talk about a lot as well is like this idea of like taking the edge off. making the action. And like we talk about taking the edge off by connecting to your values, or doing those time hops. So like, where do you want to be in a year's time? What would you want for somebody else? Those kind of things. But it's like your brain is almost trying to take the edge off, but in a really disordered way that is like completely unsustainable. And like we want to take the edge off. Like there's nothing that takes the anxiety fully away, but like take the edge off in like a positive, sustainable way that's actually going to allow you to have a healthy relationship with food and movement compared to keeping you stuck.
Mm.
Mm.
Winds have gone, then your body decides what does it
Mm.
want, when does it want it, kind of thing. But as long as there's conditions attached, your body is going to be fighting back against those because it's like, no, I don't want my brain running the show here. Like, it's not for your brain to micromanage and say, this is okay because of this, this is okay because of this. Like, your biology and your body is stronger than that. Like, it knows if it wants this, if it needs this, if it hasn't had this in a while and it wants the taste of it, kind of thing.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
uh, Another thing I say with clients is like about severing the tie between weight and food. So as long as you're like, if you're somebody who sees your weight and knows your weight, and then that dictates your food in some way. So like, if my weight does this, I'll be allowed to eat this, but if my weight does this, I'll cut back on this. Like, you know, that if they're linked, but I feel like recovery is like breaking that link. Like, food is separate to what you weigh. Food does not depend on what you weigh. What you're allowed to eat in a week does not depend on what happened on that weigh day. But I think when they get linked, like in your brain, like, well, if weight does this, food does this, then you're stuck in that, like, that is going to be a condition around your eating. But like, almost like having scissors and being able to sever that tie. I think mainly the opportunity for that comes when, if you've seen your weight do something you didn't want it to do, like if you've seen yourself gain weight, not using food to counteract that, because in doing that, you are teaching your brain that those two things are completely linked. And if this happens to my weight, then this must happen to my food. But severing the tie between those things, like in my mind, the opportunity comes when you see your weight go up and then you go, and I'm going to continue eating those things that my brain is telling me, now you have to stop this, now you have to cut back on this, you have to swap this one for this, now this week you're not allowed this. And you
Yeah.
know, like, no, those things are allowed because they're always allowed, not because my weight did a certain thing that says they're allowed.
Yeah, because also it becomes so stressful when, like, for instance, you didn't have that thing, but your weight goes up, or like, yeah, and or you had that thing and your weight maintained or didn't go up or whatever, and you're like, but I don't understand. And it's
Yeah.
it's like, well, like it's part of the recovery thing, isn't it? To realize like our bodies aren't a calculator, they're not predictable. It's not like, well, if I have this, and that's what we're taught so much in diet culture, isn't it? Like, oh, if you have this, then this is going to happen to your body, and it's just not the case. Like there are so many systems and organs and cells and things going on in your body. We have zero idea what's happening, or water
Yeah.
levels changing. Like our weight is not going to be this constant. Like there are so many factors
Yeah.
that go towards contributing to it.
Agree. Like, one, does the formula even work? Can you even solve it? You
No,
know, because you're not, like, you literally need to run a PhD on your body to try and solve the formula. And even then, I don't think you would solve it.
no.
And two, is it worth it? Like, is it working? Even if you could solve the formula of your body, at what cost?
At what
You know,
cost?
like, if I was trying to, if I haven't recovered because I cracked the formula to my body.
No.
I mean, like, I've done it because I let it go. I
Yeah.
said to myself, like, no, I don't want to live like that anymore. I don't want to see my weight and that to determine my food. I want my food to be allowed because it's allowed. So I severed the tie, you know, and that's what allowed me to get freedom around it. Not that I devoted so much time and attention to it that I understood it and cracked it. Because also, even if you crack it one day, you've then got to crack it the next day. Like, it's a blank slate every single day. There's no eternal, like, cracked my eating disorder and I'm done for the rest of my life. And now I know exactly what I'm doing and I feel in control and safe and blah, blah, blah. No, it's like, you're in a hamster wheel,
Yeah.
constantly trying to meet those conditions and solve it and crack it. Is it working? Like, even if you could solve the formula, is it worth it?
Yeah, and then you really will feel like for the rest of your life you're on this like hamster wheel of life of every day being the same, and
Mm.
you know, like you can't go on holiday because that will change the formula. What does that mean? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
It's
you
so
can't imagine like getting pregnant or having kids or moving house, even like those like things, because what does that mean for like
yeah.
that formula that I've so tightly controlled? Yeah.
So true. To be able to even slightly feel like you've got a handle on the formula, you have to make life very controllable. And to be able, life isn't controllable. Like, there are so many like curveballs and stuff in life. So to feel like you've got life in a controllable place, you have to make it quite small to be like, I can manage these 5 things, whereas life's actually like 50 million things.
Yeah, and it's actually those like other things that make life so fun. It is like the birthdays and the weddings and the this and the holidays and the this that actually create those really special moments. Those special moments don't usually happen on like the Groundhog Days, but like your eating disorder just increases those Groundhog Days because you're so scared to engage in the other ones.
So true.
Okay, so other ones would be like it's okay to eat this because it was a present and the person who gave me it would want me to have it. So it's again like linking to that value part. Do do you relate to that at all?
Yeah, sorry, I was just saying pleasing people. I definitely had that too.
Oh,
Like
yes.
it was a factor that I felt like if someone was pleased enough with me that I'd done it, then that could also make it worth it. Even if I didn't necessarily want to do it, if it had pleased another person, then I was like, okay, I've done
Oh
something.
my gosh, that just reminded me. I used to be like that with my husband. I'm like, are you happy with me that I did that? Oh God, you didn't do that. When you share something that you're like, I hope and you say, yeah, I did that too. But I actually think we're kind of different in that way. Like I think I'm like such a like words of affirmation person.
Yeah.
Like, but I would literally be like that. I'd be like, are you happy with me? It's like and like in the beginning as well. The thing is in the beginning, they're so happy with you, aren't they? They like literally want to throw a party. And then like as time goes on, they're like, yeah, I mean, you did the cake,
But
didn't
then you're still looking for
you,
that
yeah,
kind
yeah,
of
you're
vibe.
yeah, you did the cake last week. And so yeah, like I think it's like and then you're like, oh, well, people are less worried about me or people care about it
Mhm.
less, da da da. But then actually that is where the healing happens because that's when you have to go within, well, it doesn't actually matter. It doesn't actually matter. And I don't want that kind of relationship with my husband anyway, where I need this
Yeah.
kind of like applause that I ate something. So yeah, that's so funny
Yeah,
that
like
people
you're
please
shining
do.
the light with you're shining the light within a bit more. Like it's okay
Yeah.
because it's okay for me, like not because someone.
Exactly, exactly,
I
exactly.
think by the way, I probably did it, but non-verbally. Like I would never ask that.
No,
But
no,
I'm
because you're
trying to
not
figure
that
it out.
type of person.
No, I'm
Yeah,
almost scared I wouldn't because I wouldn't want to be like asking somebody something like that, but
yeah,
I wouldn't be thinking it. I'd just be trying to solve it like privately in my head.
yeah. Oh, equally sad.
It is, yeah.
Yeah, so okay, so again, it's
One
okay. So
sec.
it is kind of related. So it's okay to have this because my doctor, my dietitian, my coach said that I should. So like this idea, like you can only do a challenge food because like somebody else has told you that you need to have it. So then when you
Mm.
have something that's like definitely a challenge food, but somebody hasn't given you permission for it, that becomes really tough. I definitely experienced this
Oh yeah.
personally. I
Go
did, yeah. What I'll tell you how like I initially overcame that was like I had my list of my challenge foods that I would work through each week and I'd highlight the ones, but then the ones that I did without that, I would still tick off as having
Mm.
done them, which made me feel better at that time.
Mm.
Like as I was recovering that, like, okay, I have done them and I'm still going to show my therapist that I did them. And I'd almost see them like I'd rather than framing them as like unnecessary, I'd frame them as like bonus ones, like bonus ones.
That's
Like
yeah.
your, oh,
Oh,
didn't you have something like that, like a recovery token
yeah.
or something like
Recently
that?
I started talking about like spontaneous challenges, or what's the other word for that?
Yeah, I love, yeah.
Anyway, like unexpected challenges, like
Yeah.
opportunities where it's like you didn't expect to be in a position where you were going to challenge this. It wasn't planned, but
Yes.
the opportunity presents itself, like it's someone's birthday and they offer you cake in the office. I don't know, something like that. And then I would call it like a spontaneous life challenge. And they're quite scary because they're on the spot and you've not anticipated it or planned for it or expected it.
Mm-hmm.
But also, the thing that's quite nice about them is it's very authentic. It's not like, I don't know, this week I need to challenge having my lunch at 11:45. So I'm going to sit down and make myself have lunch at 11:45. Versus if you have an appointment over lunch,
Mm-hmm.
so you're like, okay, so it makes sense if I just eat my lunch before the appointment. Like it fits in with life and it's authentic. So I feel like sometimes those things crop up and then you're like, I was not anticipating this. But if you can hold in your head, like you've almost got like a box of spontaneous challenges that are there. You don't know what they're going to be or when they're going to present. But if one pops up, you're like, oh, here's one of my spontaneous challenges. Like, here we go.
I love that one. And that's something we always tell people, like when you're trying to do a goal, like try to find where it like fits into your life, like because it makes it easier. However, also it can be a pitfall because you can be like, well, I'm only allowed my lunch at quarter to 12, like relating to the topic, like I'm only allowed my lunch at quarter to 12 because I've got a meeting at 12 o'clock, as opposed to like, it's so cheeky, isn't it? The eating disorder. But
So
like,
hard.
as opposed to like, I'm having my lunch at quarter to 12 because I'm hungry.
Yeah.
I want it early.
Yes. But I think with that as well, like as you challenge conditions, it's very easy for the condition to rewrite. Like, okay, so now you're allowed this on a this day, but not on a this day, or you're allowed it with this person, but not on your own, or you're allowed it from this shop, but not at home, or like whatever. Like you get a kind of like a new rule attached. And then, but I kind of see that like that to me, that is just how it happened. Like I would challenge something and then be like, oh, now I've got to challenge it like this. Oh, now I've got to challenge it like this. And it's almost like I had to challenge and challenge and challenge until I got to the point where I was like, oh, now it is allowed at any time of day, in any setting, with any person, from any shop, in any quantity, da, 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 da. There's no rule left. And like I can almost like conceptualize it. Is that the right word? Visualize it as
Yeah.
like you kind of, oh, this isn't going to work very well on the podcast, like holding my hands up in a little circle. But like as you recover, you stretch the circle, like you challenge things outside your comfort zone. You stretch that circle a little bit. That's now your new comfort zone. Like the circle's getting bigger and bigger as you challenge things, but there
Love that.
still is a boundary on it. Like there's still, I can do a lot more than I could do, but there's still limits and rules. But then you get to the point eventually where it kind of just like bursts, and
Mm.
then you're like, there's actually no condition left. Like there is nothing now which governs why I'm allowed to eat. But it, for me anyway, it did take quite a lot of like systematic challenging things to get there. Like it was a very, oh, like relentless. Like I felt like I had to challenge things in like, I don't know, however many different contexts and capacities before I then felt like now this is a neutral, allowed, just fine thing.
Yeah, Meg, I love that. I love the way that you just said with that, with the bubble and it growing bigger and bigger, because that's exactly what it feels like until it bursts. Like for me, like your videos were so key in me feeling like that was possible. Like, how did you hold on to that? I know this isn't what we're talking about today, but like, how did you hold on to believing that one day that bubble's going to burst?
I don't think I knew, to be honest. And even the challenging things in different contexts almost like surprised me. I think I can like see it now in hindsight that that's what happened. But I did feel like, oh my God, this is just morphed. Like I've now just got a new rule and now I need to go
Yeah.
and do this. And I remember doing some videos about it. Like I think I did like cheese sandwiches. And then it was like, hey, you're allowed the cheese if it's melted, but not if it's unmelted. You're allowed it in Costa, but you're not allowed it at home, or you're allowed it for lunch, but not dinner. I'm making these up. I can't remember what the things were, but
Yeah, no,
like
I
there,
remember
I
them. They were good.
really
Mm.
remember like I did one video about it and I was like, oh my God, now I've got to do another one because now there's just like a new rule kind
Yeah.
of thing. And
Yeah.
then like in treatment, Karine, our therapist, was so good at like consistently like keep going, challenge, repeat, don't compensate around it, and like go with the new context of the rule, that kind of thing. Now challenge that, like very systematically going through it. And then I don't know that I knew it was going to happen or that I believed it. I just kind of then got to a point where I was like, oh, cheese is now allowed any variety, any time of day, any quantity, any place, with any person, without any person, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I know. I think what you just said is so key about like being validated by Kareen. My husband laughs. He says that we always just talk about how amazing Kareen is in the podcast. I was like, today I'm going to
Like
try.
a homage.
Hey, there we go. We're back. I know. She probably doesn't even listen. I think I'll just send her like all these little snippets of it. But I do think there is something about somebody else saying, like, you're right. You're right. You should challenge this part because I think we know it. We know, like my clients, I feel like their awareness of like the rules because now they're in active recovery. They actually know that these are a thing and they need to challenge it. But sometimes you need somebody to be like, no, you're right. Yeah, that is what you need to do. And it just makes you feel so much better about it. But
Possible. And
yeah,
then I guess the flip side of that, also I'm aware some people could have the opposite of this, that they don't like people there to see or to validate or to, people that like to eat on their own or that live on
yes,
their own, that kind of thing. Again, everything's so unique. And also it can change with time. Like what's a rule one time can then completely flip. And then you're like, oh, now I can only do this, which is the opposite of what you used to be able to do.
absolutely.
But like in my experience, like the flip of that was then if I had people validating me, so say my husband, Bren, if we were like eating together, so that made it feel justified because he was there with me, then I would have experiences of like, if he's out for the night, say he's playing football, how do I then do it on my own? If I've been like relying on other people as a justification, then I guess it's that bubble expanding. Now when he's out, this is now a new condition that I've now got to
Mm.
like smash through, of being able to do it on my own without him there to justify it for me, kind of thing, which that is one that I found really difficult, that like sense that when he wasn't there to watch. I kind of felt like almost my thoughts got louder, like this is an opportunity now, you've got to do something now whilst he's not there to watch. Like when it was just me, it was like, well, you can't do it when it's just you wanting to do it, kind of thing. It can only be okay if he's seen that you've done it.
Mm.
But I think with that one, like I did not want that. Like I wanted to be a person that could eat regardless of who was around me. He could go out and I could do it on my own. I had a picture in my head of like being on my own on a Friday night with a glass of wine and a takeaway, just
Mm.
because that's just what I wanted to do. No one knew, no one saw me, and I just did it for me, And then I guess to get there, then I actually had to do it, which was the hard part. And when I came to do it, then I'd get so many thoughts of like, but it's a waste of money if it's just on you. You've got leftovers that you need to use up. This time, just have this. You can do it in the future. You do it next time. Or if I did come to do it, it would be like, well, this takeaway is cheaper than that takeaway, or this one's higher calorie than that one. So like
Mm.
bombarded with thoughts, that I then had to kind of just be like, no brain.
Yes.
I'm not doing this because I want to do it today. I'm doing it because I ultimately want to be able to do it, and then aligning to that and not listening to like your brain will always send you a million reasons not to do something. And it's looking for the justification that's going to land. Like, but what about the cost? And then you managed to back that away. But what about using up leftovers? You managed to back that way. What about the calories? You managed to back that way. What about no one's there to see you? Like, there's just always like, it's relentless. You're going to have thought, thought, thought. And to me, it was just like, I've spoken to someone recently about like holding up a shield to that
Mm.
almost, and it just let the thoughts bounce off and stay clear on like, or you don't even need to stay clear on it, you just need to do it. Like, no, I'm aligning to the future version of me. Like, where do I ultimately want to be? Not what makes sense now or feels right now, because now my brain is wired around not doing it. So
Mm.
if I pay any attention to my brain now, then I'm not going to do it because that does not feel comfortable to me. And who wants to feel uncomfortable? So I'm really waffling on.
No, no, everything you're saying is absolutely correct. I can't agree more. Yeah. Yeah, no, I was like, oh, you're going to continue. No, absolutely.
Okay, enough.
Like, no, I was really done.
That was plenty.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you because I think that's the thing is like in that moment, you're like, well, this doesn't feel value aligned or this doesn't feel good. And it doesn't feel like a chilled evening, just me and my takeaway. But like, obviously, the first time you did that, it wasn't easy, but it was the repetition of it has meant that like now you can do it and you can just go get a takeaway or you can like just go out and go to a coffee after you've dropped Freddie off and
Again, every
yeah,
day.
yeah, at school, and you can just go because you want to, and it's not justified, and it's not because of any other reason than just because you want to, and it's just takes food and everything off its pedestal, and it means that
Mm,
you get to free up your brain for other stuff. Like I
yeah,
think that's the ultimate thing, isn't it? Is the enjoyment of the food, great, but also like it's also so you just get to not have all this mental chatter around food.
yeah, 100%.
Okay, so other ones were it's okay to eat this because there's a family emergency, so the rules go out the window. So like this kind of links to that idea of like there's an emergency, so I'm allowed to grab something quick, or um like it's okay to have this takeaway because the shops are closed, or like it's like it's been a stressful day, so I can have it. It's this feeling of like justifying it because time is short or my options are limited. So that
Mm,
means that when my options are not limited, it means that I don't get to choose the thing of preference.
yeah.
And I think that is a really, really interesting one of like, you know, I remember like feeling like with my movement one because I had an awful relationship with movement. It wasn't again. I think I've said this on previous podcasts. It's not that I exercised for a long time or anything like that. It just felt like something I had to do. And so I remember feeling like I just wish, and this is an awful thing to wish, but I used to wish like I wish I just had an illness that meant I just
Break your leg or something.
yeah, yeah. I wish I was in bed and I just couldn't move. And don't get me wrong, if that had happened, like also the thoughts would have been mental because I did get to a point where I'd like dislocated my knee and I couldn't walk. So that wasn't a joyful experience either. And like that was really tough. But I remember thinking like if the choice was just taken away from me and I just had to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
on bed rest, like
Oh.
That would be so easy. And the fact that you even like kind of get those thoughts of like wishing something could happen so that you had that permission, that's way more than enough
Yeah,
to know
yeah,
there's an
yeah,
issue
yeah.
that you
Yeah,
can work on. It's your brain screaming like, I want rest or I want food,
yeah,
and
not lying.
it's not, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
That's so sad because that just sounds like you're not enough of a reason for it to be okay. Like the fact you want it is not enough. It has to be like a broken leg or a something debilitating to stop you from doing it versus like actually if you just don't want to do it, that's plenty of enough.
I love the way that you said that as well, because I think that like, yeah, like when I think of other clients as well, you can see that of where they've just like lost that ability to trust themselves or feel like their voice is enough. And it's about,
Yeah.
maybe that is part of all of this. Underneath it all is about realizing like what you want is enough. Like you don't need to look to outside external
Yeah.
people for what you
Yeah.
personally want or what your body needs. Nobody knows how it feels to be in your body but you. So yeah.
Yeah, and with that as well, that's really difficult because then when it comes to it in the moment, what you want flips, or you get detached from what you want, or you're flooded with anxiety, and then what you want is not what you want anymore.
Mm,
I guess the separating what you ultimately want to do and how you ultimately want to be able to live. Like think about yourself a year from now, where do you want to be? And it's like aligning to that versus how you feel in the moment,
yes.
because that's the trap of an eating disorder is how you feel in the moment. And then you align to that. And so you stay in that like doing the ticking the boxes to feel okay in the moment.
Mm.
But those in the moment boxes don't align with how you want to live your life. So it's like flipping like I'm aligning to like the bigger picture, like long term versus immediate
Immediate.
safety.
Yeah, absolutely. And seeing that bigger picture. Um, Yeah, I completely agree. And also another area that I think, because I've got clients who are either mums or about to be mums or aspiring to be mums, and I feel like motherhood just brings like so much of its own need for justification. Like, I don't know if now you're a mum, you could see where there are so many pitfalls that if you still had your eating disorder, like you could fall into. But I see it
Mm.
a lot with people who are mums, who've been very open with how they feel, which is amazing. And they've just said that, like, like it's okay to have this food because I'm modeling good eating for my child. So like I'll
Mm.
only eat this because I want my child to see me being able to eat a cake, or I'm only having this because we're having this moment together and we're eating ice cream together. If they weren't here to do that, then I wouldn't feel like it's justified, or I need the energy to keep up with kids, or I've had a bad night's sleep, so I deserve to have this food.
Yeah.
And like I think it's such a pitfall, and I think this is why either like it's so difficult when you're in recovery and you're a mum, or to kind of navigate this, because your children are like your priority, but you want to be able to value yourself like truly. Like it's that is actually like if you can value yourself truly and listen to your body and what you need, like that is the best role modeling for your child, not
Yeah,
just in the
yeah.
moment. Yeah,
I imagine that's what people actually want as well, is they want their children
absolutely.
to see that I listen to myself, I honor myself, food is allowed
Absolutely.
because it's allowed. They don't want like they want their children to genuinely see an authentic version of that. But
Yeah.
that sounds like what's playing out in the moment is that if you're there to see it, I'll do it. If you're not, I won't
Yeah,
thing. That's not the
exactly.
same. Like then you're aligning again to like how do you feel in the moment versus if what you want is to role model good eating for your children, you want it as a genuine, like that's genuinely how I live my life thing, not a you don't want them to you don't want to role model to them. I do it when people are around to see it.
Absolutely,
I
absolutely.
imagine.
And kids are really intelligent. They do pick up on stuff as well. And so, like, but I think it is such a hard one to do. But I also think that some of these clients that I'm speaking about, they also have like orthorexic thoughts come in. And then you have to think to yourself, like, okay, if you are judging yourself around like the food that you're eating, you're saying it's not a good food to have, I shouldn't have it, I don't deserve it, then why are you role modeling eating that food to your child? It's because you want your child to have that. You want your child to be like, I want the ice cream, I'm going to have it. I want the cake, I'm going to have it. I'm going to enjoy food, I'm going to be free around it. I don't feel like I have to go and do exercise. If you want that for the person that you love the most in the world, then you have to think like, why have I got such a different rule for myself? Like,
So true. Yeah, those are your values then.
That's your values. Yeah. If
Yeah,
you want that for
definitely
your
set
child.
your values.
Exactly.
Values for me, values for the rest of the world.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that is a really important thing to like notice when you are recovering. But I think in terms of like moving through these and getting through these justifications, like it is about challenging the food. Sometimes reframes help, but ultimately I think it is about taking action and like eating them. And like you said, allowing that bubble to grow bigger and bigger and bigger until it does ultimately burst. And also just starting to notice like in obviously when you first challenge, the thoughts are really noisy. But if you repeat it, you'll notice how much the thoughts start to get less and less and less, and seeing that as like a win in the process. And like that is how it will go. That is how the whole process continues. Like the more you do it, the less pressure it becomes.
Yeah, but you're right. Almost at first, it gets worse in a way. Like your thoughts feel louder because when you're ticking your boxes and meeting your conditions, your brain's a bit more satisfied with it. As in, it's like, okay, this is okay. Okay, this is okay. But when you start pushing that, your brain's going to be like, whoa, this is well outside my comfort zone. Like, what's happening? And then it will scream back at you, like, pull it in somewhere. Like, no, you don't want to be left feeling uncomfortable. It's human nature. Like, no one enjoys feeling like that. So then you're desperately like, how can I make this feel better?
Yes.
That I think it's so hard because that feeling of like you challenge something and then it feels so bad. It's almost like confirmation to you, like, see, this is why I don't do this because it feels so wrong, like in your very like soul, in your being, it feels wrong. So then it's like, see,
Yeah.
why not to do it? But it's the like carrying on, like doing it anyway. And then eventually, like your brain, I feel like catches up, like, oh no, this is actually fine. But it needs exposure. It's not ever gonna one day wake up and be like, oh, I feel fine about doing this without conditions today. You
Mm.
have to like break the conditions repeatedly to show your brain this new way, and then it starts feeling okay about it. Not like it doesn't spontaneously forget a fear,
No.
spontaneously rewire.
No, absolutely. And do you think in terms of like practical skills, something like you've spoken about before, Meg, is like this idea of like take five. So like would you do maybe like a take five reasons why you are challenging this, whether this is about like reducing food noise ultimately, not just right now in this moment, or like, yeah, taking food off of its pedestal and or having these occasions like going to the birthday and remembering your interaction with the people rather than the cake, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I would do both ways as well. I try and get people to do like five benefit. How do I always get so confused? I need to find a better way to say it. I get so confused, right? Five benefits of doing this thing and five shit things about not doing it. So five reasons I don't want to stay trapped in this condition of whatever it is, and five reasons I want to be released from, like almost like the flip of each other,
Love that.
which I feel like is like exactly what you're saying. The take five, it's like it's the opposite of what the eating disorder tells you effectively. And that's like playing on loop, you've got the eating disorder reasoning all the time about like meet this condition, you have to do this, you have to do this for it to be allowed. But that's actually neglecting a ton of stuff. Like it's neglecting your entire life, basically. So bringing that in a bit more, like turning the volume up on the other side, shining the spotlight more onto your life, like at what cost? What are you losing to meet those conditions? Like broadening that picture to be like, I've reduced life down to feel safe with if I do this, 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 this. But what about like, what's my personality like? What are my relationships like? What's my interest like? What's my peace like in my brain? What does my daily routine look like? What's the quality of my life like? I feel like there's a bit scary now, even as I'm saying them, but like that's what gets lost in whilst you're like on that hamster wheel of like just meet the condition, meet the condition.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. So just like having kind of getting outside of the moment that feels like so all consuming and realizing like what impact is this actually having on my life? And like if nothing changes now, then I'm going to be in the same place in another year's time, another year's time. And am I going to be happy with my life looking back on this
Yeah.
ultimately?
Yeah.
Mm.
I've thought of another one, by the way.
Go on, hit us.
Um, I think we mentioned cost a couple of times as well. Like, I don't know if you had money as a
Yeah, for sure.
justification thing
Definitely.
attached. Um, Yeah, I definitely did. Almost to the point as well, where sometimes I feel like your conditions can come into conflict with each other. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know, say you're trying to choose a sandwich or something, it's part of a meal deal, and one's X calories, one's X orthorexia, or I don't know what the word is for that,
Hmm.
one's X money. And then it's like, oh, well, now what's more important? This one's saving me money, but this one's higher in calorie. But then maybe if I like, do you know what I mean? Then you're
Yeah,
like almost
absolutely.
paralyzed, arguing in your own brain between your own conditions to try and find what's the item that like best matches my formula, what's most important to me in this situation.
Oh my
Ugh.
gosh, that's such a good point, isn't it? They do all kind of come into conflict. The money one was a really funny one with me. Like I definitely had a lot of issues around money for sure, but also I remember like spending like a really obscene amount on particular foods because I think like where I had the orthorexic side, like the health
Mm.
and wellness industry is very expensive and you'll spend a lot of money on like the smallest pot of item that is like going to
Mm.
transform your health. So it was a really funny like yeah, I definitely was part of mine, but I think
Uh,
that if it was the case of like the perfect food, I would spend money on that in a
and it was
way that I would
justified in
never,
that
yeah,
direction.
that I would never like realistically spend in other ways. So yeah, it's such a funny one, but I agree with you. Like and I completely think this is again with like the orthorexia because nothing is, everybody has such different opinions. So like one person's opinion of health completely contradicts another person's opinion of health. So you're like constantly like, oh, but this has got this in it, but it hasn't got this in it. And da 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 da. It's just like so
Mm.
exhausting. And I think when you're like going to choose a food item, like one of the best things somebody ever said was just like, think what you fancy before you walk into the cafe or the restaurant. Think like, what do I feel like? Do I fancy a tuna mayo? Do I fancy a chicken avocado salad? Like, what do you feel like? Like, and then go in and choose it so that you're less conflicted because it is hard these days with the calories all over everything, and so that you just go in almost like make a beeline for the thing that you really wanted. They've got it, great. If they haven't, second choice, and I think that helps a lot.
That's so good because that's also like not being overridden by how you feel in the moment as well. If you've made that decision before, then you can kind of just commit to it. And then, yep, in the moment, anxiety might flood you. Oh, but this one's lower calorie, da da da. Like, no, and then you can just stick to the plan.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Even also in that situation, I think sometimes just going with the highest thing can be helpful as well, because if calories numbers is one of your justifications, like eating within limits and boundaries and totals and whatever, then it's almost like to break that justification, you have to show yourself like, no, anything here is allowed. And I see it almost like a ceiling. Like if you've had the highest of everything, that you've set your ceiling, and then anything else is fine. Whereas if you're always trying to control it and choose the X number, then you're always scared that anything that tips over is not okay. But if you've started with the highest thing, like I found it with ordering coffees and stopping ever being like, I want this milk or this sugar free or blah, 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 whatever, like, like moderating my order. Because if I was like, just give it to me how it comes with the highest of everything, and then it was like liberating because then it was like, there's nothing else that can happen. I don't need to watch you make it because what can you possibly do? Whereas before I felt so much anxiety because I was like, because I was trying to control it down, I felt so anxious that maybe something would go over or something would go wrong with it. But now, if you go for the top, there's nothing that can go wrong. Like you've removed a justification, you've removed a like condition, and then it's just like, go on, try me.
Yeah, I love that. Do you know what that reminds me of with mine? Really similar. I had this with like perfect food, like the food needing to be perfectly tasting. And like I remember in therapy working through this idea of like eating imperfect food. And like initially I had to eat like food that I knew I wasn't really a fan of. Like it was just not my preference anymore. And I remember being like, right, she was like, you've got to do it. And I think because I felt so much fear in my body, like of this idea of having something that wasn't like what I loved having in the
Ah, got you.
mornings, that like I had to challenge it. And so I think that that's it, isn't it? Sometimes you have to challenge a thing that you maybe out of preference generally wouldn't choose, but because it's like challenging a rule.
Definitely. And then you can be in situations where you don't have your perfect item, and that's fine because you've not pinned everything on. Like taste, I think, is such a big justification as well. Like for me,
Massive.
if I hugely enjoyed what I ate, then that could justify it because food was so like exciting in my day.
Mhm.
But it put so much pressure on food to be perfect. And it made me really fearful, like a bit like you're saying, of like trying different things. I didn't want to try a different flavor in case I risked not liking it as much. And like it could happen. Maybe I try, I don't know, Frappuccino's on my mind. If I try a different flavor of Frappuccino and don't like it as much, then that to me would feel devastating because I've now just lost my justification for why it felt okay. But actually, how I wanted to be able to live, I didn't want that much pressure to be on food. I didn't want taste to dictate my day or to devastate my day. Like I wanted to just be a bit more like, oh, if I didn't like something, oh well, it doesn't have to be perfect, move on. I
No,
won't try, I'll try a different flavor next time.
exactly, exactly, because that is like what you do value in other people. Like you, that's what I was like when you say like, oh, I wanted to be the type of person that could like go and have the coffee and cake. I also wanted to be the type of person that like didn't get hung up on food. Like I wanted to be somebody who was like, that was all right, like whatever. Anyway, like let's carry on. Like that's what I was like, wow, how do people do that? How are they not like completely crippled by that whole experience? Like, so. Yeah, I think that then shines the light on like what your true values are.
I think to get there as well, to reach that one, stuff has to be allowed, like unconditionally allowed. Because if you're saving up for it, that you're allowed one or whatever, one in however many, however long, then it puts so much pressure on that one because you've like longed for it and looked forward to it, and then you're not allowed it again until the next allowed slot of it. But
Exactly.
if you were having it every hour, whatever, and then you had one flavor that wasn't right, you'd be like, oh well, I've had loads of it already today. I'll have it again in a minute, and then it's not so devastating. But if it's really like restricted, if it's really like longed for, it makes it so important. And then it is devastating when it's over. I found it devastating, but especially if it was like felt like the wrong flavor, then I was like mortified that this thing I'd longed for has now gone wrong.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's such a good point, isn't it? And it's you're right because you're worrying like you're never going to get that opportunity again. That was my one chance. Like it just takes the pressure off so much. I felt like that with that like going out for food as well. Like it just took off the pressure when things weren't when it wasn't that enjoyable. Like oh well, there'll be another opportunity. I don't have to wait because until it's somebody's birthday or whatever, or it's okay. I can
Yeah,
just. Mm.
yeah. But that's even making me think that if that would have happened as well, I'd then be like, okay, so I should have something different to make it the max. Here's where you get locked in your own formula to make sure I enjoy the taste, but then I'm going to waste that other thing. So then I'm like failing on that element of the formula, and that's going to cost more money. Like you get so trapped in your conditions. Like there's so much pressure on conditions to be like tick, tick, tick. And then when they go a little bit wrong, it just sends your whole versus like if you don't have the conditions, oh well, didn't like the taste very much. That's fine.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this idea of like the formula because that's exactly how it feels. And it just feels like these kind of like sliding blocks. They're just constantly sliding in, a new one sliding in, and it's so tough. And so yeah, Meg, is there anything else that you wanted to say in this topic? Go for it.
Okay, yeah, timing. Okay. So I think it can come from a few different things. There's probably other things that it come from, but the couple of things I could think of was maybe you've got like beliefs around spacing, timing, and the impact it'll have on weight, like the gaps between food being the perfect gaps for that reason. Or I certainly had like I didn't want to go long periods without food because I thought about food so much, and that was really crippling to me and like really
Feels
torturous to be thinking.
panicky, right? It feels panicky to think of the idea of going long periods without it as well. Yeah.
Really, yeah. And it was just that spending that time thinking about food, but counting down till I was like allowed the food. It was so horrible. So I personally spaced food, not spaced food. I was obsessed with timings of food for that reason. And
Mm.
I've heard someone say as well about having like the perfect balance between like not being too full after a thing or too full for the next thing, but you're perfectly hungry, like the balance of fullness and hunger and like appetite kind of thing. Like balancing that. So trying to get perfectly spaced food because of that.
Mm.
Like was timing, did you have timing as an issue?
Oh yeah, massively. Like I felt like I couldn't eat my lunch until a certain time or dinner until a certain time. And it was, but then also I was really scared about eating later than a certain time because I had in my idea that if you eat late, then that would impact your weight. So like I know some of my clients, like they've pushed weight, their food later because they were scared about like being hungry at night or something. But I also had this like sharp cutoff as well. And so, like, if for instance we were eating at somebody else's house and it went past that sharp cutoff, I was like, I thought I couldn't eat. I was like, right, that's it. Well, that's done. And it was just like so all encompassing, this old idea of like, well, when are we going to eat? When are they going to serve it? Are they going to serve it? Blah, 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 blah. Why are they still talking? Why is the food not on the table? Like I can't remember ever connecting with them because I was like constantly like what are they doing? Why is the food not out? And like, and but now it's just like, oh well, it'll be later. And that is definitely something I had to actually physically challenge, was just like eating late. And I'm so glad I did, to have that freedom, and not have this like curfew of food.
Mm, mm. Yeah, because it's not very compatible with life, is it?
No, absolutely, especially as a mum.
Yeah.
At all times, and like you don't want like the unexpected to happen and then your food dinner to be delayed, and then that means you've missed your window. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, no, time is definitely a big one for me.
Yeah, yeah, you have to manage your life down to be quite controlled to be able to meet your time conditions.
Hmm.
But then in doing that, you're missing out on being able to do life things that happen at different times.
Yeah, because your mind is always like one part it's on life and the other part is constantly on this clock of food.
Oh
And
my
so
God.
you're never fully able to give your full energy, your full presence to anything, because you're constantly like, okay, but I've got lunch at this time, or I can't eat until I've got to eat soon because I can't eat till after this or whatever.
Yeah, definitely. Oh, the clock. Honestly, like even when I was at work scheduling meetings and stuff, I'd be so like, but lunch is then and snack is then, and this meeting's going to be, so I have to reschedule that meeting to another day to make sure it fits into that slot. Da, 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 da. Like just going through time, like, oh, it tortured me knowing the time. Honestly, like I actually hated even knowing the time, even though I was desperate to know the time because it just felt like I was living inside a clock.
Yeah, and the worst thing is, did you feel bad about having that? Because I felt really bad, and I've got clients as well who like, I'm like, hey, does this time work? And they're like, oh, I really hate this, but this is my lunchtime, and
That's
I can't move
true.
it like 15 minutes earlier. And they're like, I'm so sorry, like I hate that I've had to admit that. And I'm like, oh yeah, no, I get it. Don't worry, I was there. But
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
if somebody's not had an eating
Definitely.
disorder, like admitting that is just so hard.
So true. And then also, yeah, it's hard, isn't it? Because at the same time, yeah, like prioritizing that time to me is actually really important. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's a really like it's a
Exactly,
tricky
exactly.
one.
Then I'm like, yeah, no, you just stick to that lunchtime. Like
Yeah,
that
yeah,
should,
yeah, yeah.
it's such a like a balance, isn't it, between the two?
Mm,
And you have to be like in the beginning non-negotiable with like making sure you get it in if that's
yeah.
your opportunity to have it. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, and almost, yeah, especially early on having times and structure, like that's a priority. Even like some of the stuff is, oh my God, it's such a balance. And some of the stuff almost feels disordered sometimes when you're doing it, but
Mm,
actually it's protective or it's like supporting your recovery to have it. And then having the flexibility will come later on and you'll challenge things and that sort of thing.
absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Oh, well, I hope this episode has been helpful to people, and I hope that like this has made people feel a bit more seen, because I know that sometimes it's really difficult to talk to people about how you're feeling and all of these like invisible parts of your eating disorder. And hopefully we've given you some pointers and some ideas of how you can work through it and challenge them slowly, so that you can have more brain space and able to focus on the things that actually matter to you. Yeah. Just a little furball going on in there, Meg.
Yeah.
Just
Nail in my mouth there. Yeah.
yeah. Did you want to say anything, Meg? You could.
Yeah, exactly. That I think that idea of like eating is okay because it's okay, not because of XYZ condition, like to me is what recovery is.
Truly
And
is.
so working through, okay, what are those XYZ conditions and like breaking them until you start learning a new way of being. And then hopefully eventually that bubble bursts and you're like, actually, there are no conditions attached now. And then with that, you've kind of then got the freedom to focus on life. You've got the brain space to focus on life. Like food just doesn't require so much like mental energy, physical energy, routine around it
Mm.
because you don't have those conditions to meet. It's wonderful.
Absolutely. How beautifully said. And I think what you said in the beginning as well about this idea of like bringing awareness to it, that is the first step, isn't it? So, like, if you're listening to this podcast, maybe one thing you could start by doing is just writing down in a day all of the conditions that pop up in the day. And you'll be surprised about how much brain space is actually taken up with all of these conditions. And then start to slowly tick them off and challenge them and be conscious of them, because when you're conscious of them, that's where you can actually start to recover and take action around them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Always so
Okay.
lovely talking to you, my love.
And
You go
you.
rest that voice, and
Yeah.
We hope you've all found it helpful, and we've got a guest on the next episode, so we're really excited to share that one. And yeah, we hope it's been helpful.